on it.
So what I'm saying is, hello Facebook, it's Jamie here at the Outdoor Learning Center. We are going to get started here in a second. We have a very special guest today. We have the Spokane Riverkeeper, Jerry White, who will be joining us to answer any questions you are wondering about. I'm going to start with a really short presentation about the kind of Spokane Riverkeeper job, and then Jerry's going to talk to us more. We are hoping that you will give us lots of things to talk to Jerry about. So if you are watching this live, obviously, send us a question. It might be a bit of a lag, just to warn you. If you are watching this on the replay, you can also ask questions, and we will still be able to answer those questions or send them on to Jerry so he can answer them for you guys. So we are just going to let a few more people log on here, and we'll get started in just a second. Thanks for being here. Alright, so I'm back. Just so you guys know, Jerry can hear everything I'm saying, so I can't pick on him too much. But welcome to our Facebook Live this week with our special guest, Jerry from the Spokane Riverkeeper. He's kind of behind the scenes here. You guys will get to chat with him in just a second. We're having some technical difficulties, so I have to do this the old school way. My tech person's supposed to come help me. There she comes. The Spokane River is about 111 miles long. It starts in Lake Coeur d'Alene and empties into the Columbia River. Native Americans used to live on the shore of the Spokane River, and they would rely heavily on the river for food, water, and shelter. Salmon, trout, and other fish grew huge in the rivers. Then in the 1800s, settlers started living around the river, and as settlements grew into cities, businesses began dumping their waste into the river. In 1889, Spokane built a system that dumped sewer water straight into the river. And by 1920, you could actually see the sewer and gross things in the river. And finally, in 1974 and 75, people began realizing the Spokane River needed help. And that's when people really started holding companies accountable, creating new laws, and cleaning up the river. And Gavin, Hannah, and Lincoln, and Rhett are online. Hi guys, thanks for being here. The red brand trout is one of the most iconic fish in Spokane River today. The red-bound trout got its name from the red stripe going down its side, from its eye all the way down its tail. And we have a picture up here of it. Red-bound trout used to grow really big, but now the population of red-band trout in the Spokane River is going down. This is because of pollution in the water. The red-band trout spawns and lays eggs in the rocky bottom of the Spokane River. However, sediment pollution makes this hard. If you can see the pictures on your left of your screen, you can see the whole right where the river breaks looks brown. This is all dirt and sediment that has washed into the river. So you guys can see the big difference in color here. And I know Jerry's going to talk more about what they do to help protect the river from sediment. The red-band trout needs rivers surrounded by trees, bushes, and lots of stones and rocks. The rocks give places for the fish to hide, and bushes and trees help attract insects, which trout love to eat, and also helps with shade and keeping the river nice and cool. Unfortunately, areas like that along the Spokane River are not common enough. This is why the sediment pollution is a problem. Pollution can come in many forms. One example is trash, which we talk to kids a lot about how water can get in, or pollution can get into water, and trash is kind of the big one that kids know about. It can also be debris, but it also can come in the form of dirt and sediment collecting in the water because there's no trees or bushes to help keep the dirt in place. So the trees and the roots hold the dirt in place and doesn't allow it to erode into the river. I learned a lot of this stuff from Jerry, just so you guys know. Another big and very bad form of pollutions is from PCBs. These are little chemical compounds found in things like dyes, paints, and lots of other stuff, maybe even stuff that we wash our clothes with. Some companies that dump waste into the river also dump PCBs. Then algae and fish will accidentally eat it because PCBs are very tiny and hard to see. these PCBs collect in the fish, and then we will eat those. If those fish eat those things, then we will eat the other animals, and other animals will eat those things. It's all kind of not a great system. They can cause a lot of health problems like cancer and lower your immune system. Luckily, we have people like Jerry and companies like the Spokane Riverkeeper to help keep the Spokane River clean. So today I mentioned that we have Jerry online with us. He is the executive director at Spokane Riverkeeper. Their role is to protect the Spokane River for future generations. This means advocating for the river in any way possible through law, education, and action. And part of their action, if you guys follow their Instagram page, is they are constantly out in the Spokane River cleaning out trash, like tons and tons and tons of trash. So Jerry's not just the kind of person to form laws. He's actually the person out there pulling stuff out of the river. So I'm very lucky to have my dear friend Jerry. I'll speak nicely because he's on the camera with us. I was lucky to have Jerry be an educator here at the Outdoor Learning Center before he went on to his dream job. But we're very, very lucky to have Jerry. So I am going to turn it over to Jerry White, the Riverkeeper.
Well, thank you, Jamie, and hi, everybody out there. I really appreciate you tuning in here today and learning a little bit, hopefully, about the river and about what the Spokane Riverkeeper does to help ensure that it's protected, healthy, and safe. I do want to say a special thanks to Lily and Jamie at the Outdoor Learning Center. I did work at the Outdoor Learning Center, and I absolutely adore the work that you all do, and actually miss it every day. So it's a really cool place. So at any rate, I think the very common question that a lot of people have right out of the gate is, what is a riverkeeper? So many times people, the title sounds like, well, we should wear a cape or, have a staff or something. And actually, what we do is we are watchdogs. I use the word advocate, but really we're kind of watchdogs for the Spokane River. And our mission is to protect that river for you. Because at the end of the day, it's your river. And our job is simply to ensure that it's clean, that it's safe, that it's healthy, and that you all have access to enjoy that river as really was envisioned by the folks that envisioned our system of laws, which said the rivers are all for all people to enjoy, and the uses of fishing and recreation and swimming and all of that kind of thing are guaranteed to you. So we, to say it another way, are out here watchdogging all the time what's going on out here to ensure that you all can access your river and have clean fish and clean water and a healthy place to go have fun outside. I want to make sure that I talk a little bit about our association with the International Waterkeeper Alliance. So we are actually the Spokane Riverkeeper is a part of a global waterkeeping organization. And that global waterkeeping organization is international now. There's 350 organizations from India to Nepal to China to South America. There's a London Riverkeeper or a Thames Riverkeeper in London. There is even, if you can believe this, a Tigris Riverkeeper in Iraq. And I have met him, Nabil Musa, very passionate and inspiring person. And his crew, he's got quite a crew he works with. So there's riverkeepers and waterkeepers all over the world, not just keeping rivers, but there are bay keepers, there are creek keepers, there are lake keepers. Anywhere there's water, there are keepers that are out there being watchdogs to make sure that those waterways have a voice and the communities that use that water have a voice, right? So, as Jamie noted, the Spokane River is 111 miles long, and we define kind of the area that we work in inside the Spokane River watershed. And maybe you have heard of what a watershed is, but a watershed is where when the rain falls, it all runs to a common area. In our case, the Spokane River. So even the mountains of Idaho, where a raindrop falls and runs into a little creek called Latah Creek or Hangman Creek, which then runs to the Spokane River, that is within our area that we work. We do a lot of work on Latah or Hangman Creek as it's known. There are what I think of as three major tributaries. There's actually a few more, but there's three major tributaries which are side rivers that run into the Spokane River. The Little Spokane River, there is Hangman Creek or Latah Creek. I'm just going to call it Hangman Creek from here on out, and I'll explain why in a minute. And then there's Shimmikin Creek way down south, or actually to the west of us. So those are the big tributaries, and we have really focused quite a bit of our effort on Hangman Creek. We call it Hangman Creek because of the history that happened in the 1850s, where several indigenous people were actually executed by hanging on the creek. And the tribes have told us they would like that name remembered. So we defer to them and their opinions on this.
And so Jerry, can I interrupt there for a second? And if you guys are ever wanting that, maybe you could mention the Hangman Creek Monument that's down that people can actually get to not far from here, right? Isn't it about an hour from Spokane or 40 minutes?
Not even an hour. It's about 40 minutes. So if you go out Highway 195 and take a left turn at Spangle, then you can get on the road. You take another right and out towards a little town called Waverly. But if you take a left-hand turn and drive down into the Hangman Basin, there is a monument where all of that history occurred. And it really is something that is alive and living in the traditions and the history of both the Coeur d'Alene tribe and the Spokane tribe to this day. So we always like to remember that. And I'm going to talk more about the tribes, the Upper Columbia tribes and their efforts along the river as well to keep the river healthy and safe and their history with this river.
So I do have a question. Sorry, real quick. We had a question come on from Facebook from the Harnett family. What kind of garbage? I know that you're probably going to talk about what you guys do in a little bit, but what's been probably the most amazing thing you have seen in garbage? If there is one simple answer in the river.
Yeah, well, I love this format, so I'm just going to take these questions as they come, and we can be kind of organic about how this discussion flows. I love it. I have to tell you, in picking up litter, and we've picked up, we think by our reckoning, and this number is going to blow you away, 90,000 pounds in the 6 years we've been at it on our boats with
our partners. That's incredible.
Now, some of those litter piles are tires, metal, lots of different things. I have to tell you, the most remarkable and sort of strange find we have ever had, in my opinion, on the river is kind of a sad one, but I'll tell you what it is. We found a purse with someone's belongings in it, including a smartphone and all of their credit cards, and we later learned that this was someone who had actually died in the river. So that was, for me, a really stunning find, and really brought home to me that the river is a place of great beauty and happiness and untold amounts of fun for all of the people that play there. And it can also be a place where there's some sad stories that happen too. But we found a lot of goofy, funny things, and my staff member, Jewel Schultz, is always taking photos with some funny items. One time we found a bunch of DVDs of an old 70s sitcom. That was kind of funny.
So I do have another question. First of all, Dan Wilson thinks that you should be called a river wizard. Thank you, Dan. And then
I love it.
And we talked about the red band trout. What other fish species live in the Spokane River? Can you?
Thank you. Great question. So
that's from Christy. Thank you, Christy.
I'd like to stretch this one out. Could I do that, Jamie?
Go for it.
Just talk for a minute
go
about
for it,
this?
Jerry.
So, fish are really close to my heart. I absolutely adore fish, and I'm the first person to say you do not have to go to Hawaii to see beautiful fish. Although angelfish and the state fish of Hawaii are gorgeous, you can go right to your own Spokane River with a snorkel and mask and see numerous fish that are really beautiful. One of our iconic fish that exists today, as Jamie noted, is the Columbia Basin interior red band trout. And they are, the Latin name is O. micus, and they have been here since before the last ice age. They have been here for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And they are a gorgeous leopard spot. They have like these beautiful kind of leopard spots all over their back, and they have a bright red stripe along their body. And if you swim with them with a snorkel and mask, those fish, believe it or not, don't get too spooked, and they'll allow you to get kind of close to them, see them. So they're really beautiful. There are many other native fish. There are lots of small ones like dace, and there are species of minnows, red-sided dace. But there are also really big fish in the river, which you can see if you're on a raft or an inner tube looking down, which are called large-scale suckers. And they live on the bottom, and they can get very big, and they're a critical native fish for our river. There are also mountain whitefish, which are a native of the Northwest, and they live in our river. And then there are a number of fish that are not native that are kind of a threat to the native fish. Smallmouth bass, which are native to the East Coast and the Midwest, have now invaded the river and are kind of taking over a lot of the trout habitat. And then there's northern pike, which is a great worry for us. If you go down to the reservoir section behind Long Lake Dam, there's lots of other non-native species which are not a threat to the river because they only inhabit the reservoir and don't move outside the reservoir, like yellow perch, a fish called a crappie, a fish called a walleye. Those are all Midwest imports, and they do just fine in the reservoir. The smallmouth bass worry us. Now, I'd like to kind of keep stretching out on that question because this is a good time and place to talk a little bit about the kinds of fish that used to be here. There are several kinds of fish that used to travel to our river, one of which is the most iconic fish in the Western world, which is the great big Chinook salmon. And the Chinook salmon used to come up to the Spokane River, right up to the Spokane Falls. It would go up Hangman Creek, it would go up the Little Spokane River, and it would spawn there and lay eggs, and then go back out and die in the river. The adults would die, the babies would hatch out, and then they would go all the way out to the Pacific Ocean and spend a couple of years, 3 to 5 years in the ocean. And they would come back as large as 80 pounds, 90 pounds, some of them 110 pounds. They were massive fish, and they would come back and spawn. And native tribal people of the Spokane tribe and the Coeur d'Alene tribe depended on fishing for them. So they fished for those fish, and they would put a surplus of those fish up in their fishing season. People came from as far away as Idaho, the Nez Perce tribal members, and as far away as British Columbia, Canada, to come down and fish at the Spokane River Falls. So it was a really huge attraction and draw, and one needs to know that the tribes of the Upper Columbia Basin are working very hard to get those fish back into our river, and they are the leaders of recovering those salmon runs. You might ask, why are those salmon gone? Why are the Chinook salmon gone? We used to have coho salmon, steelhead, and lamprey. Lamprey are a long eel that swim along, and they were a fish that used to return to the Spokane too. Those fish are no longer here because of our hydroelectric development. We built dams, and some of them without fish ladders, that cut off the fish from their upriver spawning grounds. The biggest, most famous dam is one of the largest dams on Earth. Anybody know what that one is?
I know what it is.
What's the name of it? Let's throw it out to the crowd. What's the name of the largest dam?
We get a little bit of a lag in our Facebook. We've discovered. So, Tiffany.
Coulee.
Yeah, Grand Coulee. Do you have any responses, Tiff? Yeah, we have a little bit of a lag, but now we know. Now we know the answer, but they'll still maybe comment. Grand Coulee Dam, biggest on the planet. Yeah. Is that what you said? Biggest on the planet?
I think the Three Gorges Dam is larger now, but it's one of the top 5. Yeah.
Hey Jerry, can you? I was talking about the monument. You could go out to Lakes Art to Hangman Creek. How about down in River Park? Isn't there some stories told down there, kind of along the river, that people could maybe go on a field trip with their families in a safe setting?
Yes. So I would encourage everyone to go down to the falls, and you can walk clear around the falls. You can go down to Huntington Park below the falls. Everybody should do that. That's absolutely stunning. And if you do it in the spring, bring your Gore-Tex, because the spray from the falls will just get you almost wet. It's beautiful. But the summer is beautiful too. And yes, there is happily a great deal of art that reflects the native culture and the importance to the Spokane people of those falls for fishing. And really the falls were sort of the heart of the Spokane culture there. Sherman Alexie has a beautiful pond down there, and Jeff Ferguson, an artist that I know, has worked on consulting with the city and getting some beautiful art that reflects native history and culture of that area down there. Yes.
Awesome. Hey, I had a question. Somebody wants to know what your favorite fish is.
Well, that's a tough one. Honestly, that's a really tough one because I grew up and my favorite fish, and the fish I was very close to, was the iconic Chinook salmon. My grandfather, who is in a photo right up, oh, I can't do it on screen, right up there, and you can't see it, but he's holding up a massive Chinook salmon from fishing in the 1940s in the Willamette River of Oregon. So the iconic Chinook salmon is one of my faves.
Awesome.
But the red band trout is just a gorgeous fish. And I will tell you quickly that I used to be a fanatic fly fisher. I caught fish. I love to catch and release. And you have to release them in the Spokane River because their numbers are not in great shape. And I now am turning to the point where it's almost hard for me to even catch them. Just like to know they're there. And a friend of mine who's an artist named Connor is the first person I know of that's begun to take beautiful photographs of them underwater. So he has invited me to go swimming with him once in a while in some secret spots where he knows they're at. And so now that I've swam with them last summer, my fishing rods are gathering dust.
Oh, it's awesome. Hey, I want to tell you something that maybe people in Spokane have noticed, and I'm pretty sure that has to do with you guys, is if you go to the Spokane Indians games, baseball games, they now have the red band trout right along with our mascots, which I think is pretty cool. Was that something you guys had to do with? Oh, he's got a shirt right there. Yeah. that's a huge addition to Spokane culture, so thank you.
Well, so let me talk about that for a minute because that's a gorgeous, I really have to give the Spokane Indians baseball team a huge kudos for that effort because they really were the ones who put the red band trout on the map in the sense of the popular culture and understanding, that these are these beautiful fish that are out there. So they have adopted a mascot named Ribby the Red Band. And if you ever, someday, and maybe as early as this summer, the baseball team will be out again, and Ribby the Red Band is the mascot. And the wonderful thing about the Spokane Indians baseball team is that they had a vision that was even beyond just making the fish the logo. They actually a little bit of the proceeds from every purchase of shirts and hats goes into a fund that then is turned around to help on projects that benefit the red band trout. So we're huge fans of Ribby the Red Band and the Spokane Indians baseball team. And if you get a chance, get out there and see them, and know that if you buy one of the beautiful, well, look at this, I've even got a sticker right here. If you buy, yeah, there, and I'm backwards. There we go. If you buy one of the logoed items, you're actually going to help benefit conservation of these fish.
That's awesome. And I'm glad that you don't have to teach virtually, Jerry. I think that it would be hard for you to have to point at things backwards. We're all gotten very good at it.
Yeah, no, I would be dead in the water.
So this might be a long question for you, but somebody is curious, how do you become a river keeper? We love
I
our
love that
careers.
question.
Yeah.
I love that question because it gets asked of me a fair amount, and B, I think there's some kind of lessons there. So I have been interested in rivers my whole life. I've loved them since I was just a little kid, and what happened with me is I didn't go directly into conservation. I've had kind of a long roundabout journey in my life, and I worked for the Forest Service and the federal government. Then I got into teaching, and I taught middle school for a long time. That's where I met Jamie. I ended up teaching at the West Valley Outdoor Learning Center, and really late in life, I began to feel like I really wanted to do something at a professional level to help fish and help the rivers that I love. So, but as I was teaching, I was doing something that's very important if you're out there and you're interested in this stuff. I was volunteering a lot. I volunteered for several organizations, Trout Unlimited and some others, and worked hard to be active and engaged and try to pick up on what I needed to do to help support these fish in this frankly kind of a rough journey they're on in these modern times with the state of our rivers. And I volunteered for years and years and years. I actually then worked for Save Our Wild Salmon Coalition, which was working for, at that point, after having taught and gotten the skills I needed, which were how do you communicate in writing and verbally, and that's a big part of being an advocate, whether it's for a mountain or a forest or animals that you love or rivers, you need to be able to communicate really well. So I learned how to communicate fairly well, if not a bit long-winded, fairly well as a river keeper, as a teacher. And then when these jobs came open, I began to apply. And I didn't get every job I applied for, of course, because you never do. And but then this one came up, and because of the long amounts of volunteer work I had done, and because, and Jamie knows this well, every time I got a teaching job, I made it. If it was about English, it was about writing about rivers. If it was about world history, we would construct full units on the world's rivers and how cultures are tied to rivers and history, right? So that's how I ultimately transitioned into being a river keeper.
Well, I think we love to talk about careers on these Facebook Lives because I think for kids to know that there are really cool, unique jobs that aren't always highlighted in their typical college or high school conversations. I think the biggest thing that you said we talk about a lot is volunteering and finding what you're passionate about. And like, I know that you're not a very young dude anymore, but that you can, I was jabbing you from the side, that you can find your career path even after you've done a lot of other stuff. So I think it's really important to share that with kids.
Yeah, one last note on that, if I can.
Yeah.
My observation, and I'm not a young dude anymore. I'm actually looking at the end of my working days, maybe. But I'll probably never stop working on and for rivers in the public. But the thing is don't be afraid to look for ways to go make it happen. And don't be afraid to fail. So, there's a level of risk in this stuff, because if you love something like a forest or animals, or you really, it will be a bumpy road, right? If you're passionate about something, because you're gonna follow, but get out and make it happen. And if you stumble, just keep looking at how you can adapt and learn from that, and then keep going to help. And don't forget that you're there to help what your passion is about. You love.
Right on, Jerry. Love that. We could probably talk to you for hours and hours and hours, but I think we have a last question that might be really good way for you to wrap up our Facebook Live event. I wish you could be here right now, because Tiffany is playing tortoise keep away right now. We have 2 tortoises that are trying to hit each other and stuff, and they're all running around. Nelson has peed on the floor, so it's awesome. You guys have no idea what's happening behind the scenes. But to end our conversation today, Jerry, what can we do to help the Spokane River? And I think that's such a great way to end our live today. So what do you think, Jerry?
Yeah, that is a perfect way to end this. So there's 3 things I'm going to say. One is you can always sign up with us or with others to go out and pick up litter, or you could go out on your own and pick up litter. It's a great way to go get to know a section of river and do something positive. A lot of that litter is plastic. It's a pollutant. It's not good for the environment. It breaks down. Animals like turtles and fish eat it, and birds. So go pick up litter. That's always great. And if you want bags, get on our website, SpokaneRiverkeeper.org, and we'll get you the bags, all right? And we'll set you up. We'll make sure you have what you need and give you a location. If you can, you could also volunteer to do sediment samples. I didn't really talk today about our work much, but you could volunteer to take scientific samples of sediment in the water, and that's going on right now. And you can find that on our website or on the Trout Unlimited website. Volunteer opportunity. Beyond that, the third thing is just go get to know your river. Go find the fun places to hang out. There's a lot of neat places along the river, all 111 miles, and go get attached to it. Go learn something about it, and then ask yourself how you can help in the life of the river at some point.
So I don't know if I've ever told you where I grew up out in Otis Orchards. The river was probably a half-mile horseback ride. And I used to take my horse out to almost the state line, and we would go swimming with my horse out at the cove. They've done a bunch of restoration there. You can't do it quite as much. But my childhood, there was probably not a day in the summer that did not include me either swimming my horse in there or swimming my dogs or just hanging out if I needed to get away from home. So I think I have really benefited from having the river in my backyard. And we are very lucky to have someone like you. As much as I hated having you leave, I understand. And the river is benefiting from you. I did want to say a few shout outs, if you don't mind, Jerry. We have some
Sure.
Viewers. So Dan, Christy, Carly, Carol, Paula, Kathy, Doug, Elaine, Gavin, Hannah, Rhett, Lincoln, and Abby. We love that you guys are watching. If you are watching the replay, remember, make a comment so we can see it. You guys can always subscribe to our YouTube channel, which we will download this video, and then we will also have access to Jerry for future questions. And I know that we can maybe add some links to some of the stuff you were talking about as far as volunteer opportunities with the Riverkeeper. So thank you so much, Jerry. Do you have anything else that you think we need?
I can't figure anything else that I would say?
Yeah.
Well, again, I think for me the big one is always remember it's your river. It's your river, and you should always have a voice in how clean that river is, and go out, get attached to it, have fun with your river. Like Jamie just talked about, it's her river. she really engaged with it and got to know it as a young person out there, and we love to hear those stories. So, go do that. And if you ever have questions, get a hold of me or Jewel Schultz, our other staff member who knows a lot about the river and runs our litter pickup program. We'd love to answer questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jerry. Goodbye, Facebook world.